He looked the same, but there was something off about him. His eyes seemed darker, almost sunken. An unsettling smile curled his lips. "Thought you wouldn't come back," he said, his voice echoing in the empty barn. It sent shivers down my spine. I opened my mouth to respond, but no words came out. Instead, I felt a rush of memories, the way he had been when I was a child, kind yet cryptic. Back then, he had spoken to me of the land's secrets and its burdens. I had thought his eccentricities were just part of his character, but now they seemed sinister. "Looking for answers?" he asked, as if reading my thoughts. I nodded, my voice lost in the lump in my throat. "There are things here you need to understand," he continued, "things that were never meant to be buried." He pointed behind me, and I turned, instinctively clutching the leather book tighter. I noticed a faint glow emanating from a corner of the barn, flickering like a weak flame. Curiosity overwhelmed my fear as I slowly moved toward it, the farmer trailing close behind. The light revealed an old wooden chest, carved with strange symbols that matched some of the names in the book. I blinked, trying to comprehend this new development. What was in there? "People don't leave this place," he said softly, the eeriness of his tone heavy in the air. His eyes searched mine, and I felt them pierce through to my very core. Why was he telling me this? What did he mean? My heart raced as the whispers from before returned, weaving through my mind. "Did you bring it back?" they urged, echoing the farmer's question from moments ago. "Open it," the farmer urged, stepping closer, his breath now warm against my skin. "You're the one meant to understand." I hesitated. This was all spiraling too quickly, and yet a strange compulsion made me reach for the lid of the chest. It creaked loudly as I pried it open. Inside, covered with a sheet, lay something wrapped tightly. The tension in the air crackled like static electricity, and I could feel every nerve ending in my body alive with fear. Just as I was about to lift the sheet, a loud crash reverberated from outside. The barn shook. The farmer's eyes widened with alarm. "You need to leave, now," he shouted, his voice low and urgent. Suddenly, everything felt wrong. My grip on the book faltered. I could sense that whatever I found in the chest was meant to stay hidden. In a rush, I pulled away, just as the barn door slammed shut, barricading my only escape. Panic surged through me. I turned back to the farmer, but he was no longer standing there. The barn filled with shadows, and I could hear the whispers again, growing louder, more insistent. That's when I realized I had stumbled into something much darker than I ever imagined. I recognized the shadows swirling around me. They were thick and warm, like fog seeping into my bones. I fought the urge to scream. "What's happening?" I shouted into the darkness, my voice barely audible above the whispers that surrounded me. "Let her stay," a voice slithered through the barn, echoing off the walls. It didn't belong to the farmer. It felt heavier, almost tangible. I backed away from the chest, but the shadows seemed to close in, wrapping their fingers around me, pulling me deeper into an unseen grip. Then I saw the flickering glow again, but this time it pulsed like a heartbeat. I was drawn to it despite my better judgment. I edged closer, the whispers tugging at my mind, nudging me toward the light. "You need to find out," they insisted. Just as I reached the chest, a loud crash echoed outside again, followed by the sounds of footsteps. Heavy and deliberate, they thudded against the barn's wooden floor. Someone was coming. My throat tightened. I glanced back, desperately hoping for a way out. The barn door held firm. The shadows were restless, swirling faster, as if they were sensing my panic. I took a deep breath, willed my legs to move, and flung the sheet off the chest. Inside lay a collection of trinkets, old photographs, rusted keys, a small weathered doll. But what caught my eye the most was a vial filled with a glowing liquid, green and viscous. My heart raced at the sight. The whispers grew louder, now a chaotic symphony demanding I take it. "Take it, you must understand," they urged, their tone shifting from inviting to urgent. I reached for the vial. My fingers brushed the cool glass when the barn door exploded open. A gust of wind swept through, nearly knocking me off my feet. I whirled around, the air swirling around me like a storm. A figure stood in the doorway, silhouetted against the fading daylight. It was a tall man, body rigid, his face hidden in shadow. "What have you done?" he asked, in a voice that sent chills cascading down my spine. I didn't do anything," I stammered, instinctively clutching the vial. I was aware that holding it could put me in danger, but part of me felt drawn to it. "You need to take it," they urged, their tone shifting from inviting to urgent. I reached for the vial. My fingers brushed the cool glass when the barn door exploded open. A gust of wind swept through, nearly knocking me off my feet. I whirled around, the air swirling around me like a storm. A figure stood in the doorway, silhouetted against the fading daylight. It was a tall man, body rigid, his face hidden in shadow. "What have you done?" he asked, in a voice that sent chills cascading down my spine. I didn't do anything," I stammered, instinctively clutching the vial. I was aware that holding it could put me in danger, but part of me felt drawn to it. "You've stirred something," he said, stepping closer, revealing a glint of fear in his eyes. "You're meant to stay away." The shadows began to retreat, as if sensing his presence. The whispers softened, fading into the background. I turned back to the chest and felt the heat rise in my chest. The farmer's words played in my mind. "People don't leave this place." I had to leave before it was too late. Before I could react, the man was upon me, reaching for the vial. Panic surged through me again. I yanked it from the chest, clutching it like a lifeline, unsure of what would happen next. That was when the barn shook again, more violently, as if the very foundation beneath us wanted to break free. The wall beside me cracked, and with it a voice roared from the depths of the darkness. "Bring her back!" In that moment, I knew I was caught in something far beyond my understanding.
The urgency surged in me.
Whatever displace was, it wanted me to stay, and it had no intention of letting me leave. As I stood frozen with the vial in my hand, a wave of desperation crashed over me. I couldn't let this man take it. My instincts kicked in. I turned and dashed toward the barn's far end, where the shadows seemed less thick, less threatening. "Stop!" he shouted, his voice echoing like thunder. I didn't look back. I just pushed myself harder, adrenaline coursing through me as I ran. The barn door swung wildly in the wind, creaking and groaning as the shadows danced at my heels, urging me to heed their call. I reached the back wall, my heart pounding like a drum, and pressed against the dry wood. "Which way do I go?" I thought frantically. But before I could figure it out, the barn shook again, and the man's silhouette emerged into view, more defined but still sinister. His expression twisted into one of frustration mixed with concern. "You don't understand what's at stake." I was bewildered. "What do you mean? What's at stake?" My voice trembled, barely breaking through the chaos. He hesitated, glancing toward the chest, then back at me. "That vial, it's dangerous. It was meant to remain sealed. You have no idea what it can unleash." The weight of his words pressed down on me, but I couldn't let him take it. "I don't care. I just need to get out of here." It was in that moment of defiance that I noticed a shimmer beside him, a shape emerging from the shadows parallel to where he stood. A figure, less defined than the man, but undeniably watchful. I gulped. There was more to this, and whatever it was, I felt it watching me. "Let her go," the figure hissed, its voice slithering through the air, wrapping itself around my thoughts. "What have you done?" the man asked again, panic creeping into his tone. To him, I must have appeared trapped in a web of secrets and dangers. I needed answers, and I needed them fast. Before I could respond, the barn trembled yet again, and the floor beneath me cracked. Fear clawed at my throat. "No, no more!" I screamed, as the shadows surged forward in response to the chaos. The man reached for me, his hand outstretched. "Please, you have to listen!" But I wasn't waiting to find out what he wanted. I burst to the side, scanning the shelves for something, anything, that could help me escape this waking nightmare. That was when I spotted a window, barely large enough for a person to squeeze through, but offering a glimmer of hope. I darted toward it, heart racing. The man shouted something, but I couldn't make it out over the rumble that filled the barn. The figure in the shadows smiled, an expression of satisfaction that made my blood run cold. With one last burst of energy, I reached the window and wedged my body through, the sharp edge of the glass grazing my arm. I landed in a tumble, the cool earth a contrast to the heat within me. Behind me, the barn groaned ominously, as if it too were trying to hold on to something precious. I rolled onto my back and gasped for air. It felt like I had escaped a tide that was trying to pull me back in, but the feeling of dread loomed heavy in my chest. I glanced back at the barn, waiting for the next move. That's when I heard it. A low chant echoed from within, the whispers returning, more insistent than before. I had only just escaped, but I knew this wasn't over. Whatever I had stirred up was not done with me yet. I lay there on the damp ground, the moon casting eerie shadows around me. The barn loomed in the background, its creaking structure a reminder of what I had narrowly escaped. My heart still raced, thudding against my rib cage. I had to think. I couldn't let fear cloud my judgment. But then I heard it, a soft rustling from the direction of the barn. The whispers had grown louder, forming an unsettling chorus. Panic threatened to grip me again, but I forced myself to sit up and look around. The world felt ominously still, as if holding its breath. I pushed myself to my feet and took a few shaky steps. Maybe I could find a safe spot to hide. Just as I turned to head deeper into the dark, a flicker of movement caught my eye. There, at the edge of the barn's shadow, stood the man. He was watching me, his features now more human and less monstrous, yet still tinged with urgency and fear. "What do you want?" I demanded, anger bubbling beneath my fear. "Why did you follow me?" He took a cautious step forward. "You don't understand what you're dealing with. The vial, it's not just dangerous, it's a key," he said, his voice lower now, almost pleading. "To something far worse." "A key? To what?" I shot back, unsure whether to trust him or run. He hesitated, eyes darting towards the barn. "I can't say here. We are not safe," he insisted. "You need to—" But whatever he was about to say was cut off by a loud crack that echoed from inside the barn. The door shuddered violently, as if something was trying to break free. I glanced back, panic rising inside me again. "Please, listen to me," he urged, desperation seeping through his tone. I hesitated only a moment longer. I didn't want to trust him, but the growing noise from the barn was undeniable. It felt like a countdown, the air thick with something waiting to be unleashed. "Fine," I finally said, looking straight into his anxious eyes. "What do I need to do?" He motioned toward the woods behind the barn. "We need to get away from here. I can explain everything, but we have to move now." Just then, the barn door burst open, and the shadows pooled out like thick fog, swirling and twisting. The figure I had seen earlier slithered toward us, its voice echoing with a sinister laugh. "You can't escape what's already been unleashed," it hissed, the sound dripping with malice. I felt my stomach drop. "What is that?" I cried, looking back at the man for answers. "It's too late for that now," he shouted, and without another moment's thought, he grabbed my wrist and pulled me toward the escape route he had indicated. We ran into the woods, branches snapping underfoot, the darkness swallowing us whole. Behind us, the chaos of the barn echoed through the trees. I didn't dare look back. As we ran, something heavy loomed in my chest. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had not only opened a door, but I had sealed my fate as well. Suddenly, I took note of our surroundings, a clearing just ahead, illuminated by moonlight. "Stop!" I yelled, unsure of how much further I wanted to go with this man I barely knew. Just as he turned to argue, someone stepped into the clearing. A woman, her face illuminated by the moon, holding what looked like an ancient book. "Leave her alone," she commanded, her voice sharp and vibrant. I held my breath, waiting for the confrontation to unfold. I had just traded one danger for another, and I wasn't sure I could trust either of them. The woman's eyes bore into mine, full of authority mixed with worry. I felt a shiver run down my spine. "Who are you?" I managed to stammer, glancing nervously at the man beside me. "I'm your only chance of survival," she said firmly, not breaking her gaze. "That thing you unleashed is hunting you, and it won't stop until it gets what it wants." "What do you mean, hunting me?" I blurted, the knot in my stomach tightening further. "What does it want?" "It wants the vial," she explained, flipping open the book in her hands. "You have no idea of its power or the consequences of what you've done." The man beside me shifted nervously. "She's right. We have to understand the nature of the vial before it finds you." I stared at both of them, confusion swirling in my mind. "How do you know about the vial? How do you know about me?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The woman stepped closer, her eyes softening slightly. "I've been searching for you. The moment you stumbled into that barn, I felt the disturbance. You've opened a doorway, and if you don't close it soon, that thing will come for you, and not just you." The realization hit me like a slap. "I didn't mean to," I said, shaking my head. "I thought I was just looking for answers." "You need to shut it down," she urged, scanning the edge of the woods. "It's only a matter of time before it finds you. If you trust me, I can help." The sense of urgency in her voice struck a chord, but a part of me still hesitated. Suddenly, from deep within the shadows, a strange noises filled the air. It sounded like faint, taunting whispers, growing louder as if in response to her words. The man's face turned pale. "What is that?" I gasped, my heart racing again. "Time is running out," the woman insisted. "Follow me." With no time to think, I nodded and sprinted after her. The man followed closely behind. We dashed deeper into the woods, the whispers growing more distinct, wrapping around us like tendrils.
Mas can harness this power, but only if we act fast.
Let it fill your heart and mind. Draw from it.
The symbols ignited con energy, glowing brighter as they absorbed the darkness, the chamber trembling as though it were alive. And then, in a blinding flash, everything imploded in light. I felt myself being pulled back, the force of it rippling through my entire being. When the brightness finally receded, I found myself lying on the cool ground outside the stone structure. The moon hung overhead, serene and unblemished, as if nothing had ever happened. My heart still raced, but fear melted to a dull ache in my chest. The woman stood beside me, concern etched into her features. "Is it over?" I asked, breathless. "For now," she replied, her gaze darting toward the shadows surrounding us. "But you've opened something. We might not have seen the last of it." Confusion swept over me. Had it truly ended? I looked around, half expecting the creature to emerge from the depths. Instead, the woods stood tall, whispering softly in the evening breeze. The man approached, visibly shaken but safe, maybe even relieved. "We need to put things right," he said, glancing at both of us. "We can't let it happen again. We need to find the source of its power." "Source?" I echoed, the weight of his words settling heavily. "There are others," the woman interjected. "Others who hold pieces of this connection.
If we don't unite them, we leave ourselves vulnerable. My heart sank at the thought, but new resolve surged from within. Questions remained, tangled knots in my mind. Who else was out there? What if this threat never truly left? But deep down, I knew. I couldn't just walk away without facing this. I will help, I said, my voice steady. Whatever it takes. They exchanged looks of determination, and I sensed the power of shared intent ebbing in the air. As we left the clearing behind, moving deeper into the unknown, I felt a strange dichotomy of fear and hope. A whisper in the wind reminded me of the shadows that lingered. My past was not easily escaped. But whatever awaited us ahead, I was ready to confront it.